Welcome to the 148th edition of Pod Universal, India's first and leading pod magazine, published by Prime Point Foundation. I am K. Srinivasan, editor of Pod Universal, welcoming you to this show. In this edition, we bring you an interesting interview with Mr. Anthony B.M. Good, popularly known as Tony Good. Mr. Tony Good is an internationally well-known and a celebrated legendary communication strategist. He is also the founder and chairman of Good Relations, a communication and PR agency both in UK and in India. Good Relations is the first PR agency in Europe to get listed in the London Stock Exchange. Mr. Tony Good is associated with India almost from 1970 onwards through various companies as a member of the board. Presently, he is also the international chairman of Cox & Kings, a leading travel agencies operating in many countries with headquarters in India. On 13th February 2012, Public Relations Council of India, PRCI, honored him with the coveted Lifetime Achievement Award at Mumbai in the presence of galaxy of communication and media professionals. On the next day, he was on a short visit to Chennai for a few hours. Since he was hard pressed for time, I travelled with him to airport to record this interesting interview. Please listen to him now. Mr. Tony Good, welcome to Pod Universal Show.
Very kind, thank you.
Let me congratulate you for receiving the coveted Lifetime Achievement Award from Public Relations Council of India.
I feel extremely honoured by it. It will be something I will aspire to possibly live up to if I can.
So you are associated with Indian corporates almost from 1970, that is nearly 40 years.
Absolutely.
You know about the Indian corporates and the European corporates. What do you think are the strong points of Indian corporates according to you?
I think there is still very much a family tradition in most of the major corporates, and I think that is a strength. I think that they've moved with the times in that the second and third generation increasingly tend to be educated on an international stage rather than a national one. So I think you get the best of both worlds. You get the cohesion that comes from a close-knit family business, but also the younger members have gained experience and knowledge abroad which they're bringing to bear in their businesses here.
So what, according to you, are the weak points among the Indian corporates that prevents them to meet the global standards?
Well, I think increasingly they are achieving global standards. I mean, if, for example, you had told me in 1970 when I first came to India that, for example, Tata would own not only Tetley Tea and what was British Steel but Land Rover Jaguar, I think very few people would ever have believed that. And I've seen the incursion of Indian corporates to the international stage in a most impressive way.
Do you think that the Indian corporates are building their image properly, because you are also an image manager?
I think one of the problems that India has is that as a country it is not doing its PR as well as it could and should. Now, you might expect me to say that, but all too often the headlines about India are about, in fact, corruption and inefficiency. Now, every country has its corruption, and sadly my own has been proved recently to be no exception. I think that India has to recognise the need for PR as a country, and Indian corporates also need to recognise that they have to promote themselves on the international stage as well as on, in fact, as well as on their local domestic stage.
Do you mean to say that India is being projected negatively outside, or?
I think too much of the news that comes out of India tends to have, in fact, a rather negative aspect to it, yes.
What is the solution?
The solution is to promote the positive. What was the famous song? Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. And I think that in terms of eliminating the negative, there is a big job for the Indian government to do in being seen to grasp the nettle of the corruption that undoubtedly exists, but it also exists in many, many other parts of the world.
Now that takes me to another broader question about media. You are seeing a European media and Indian media. What do you think about the Indian media? Are they more sensitive or more sensational?
I don't think they are more sensational, no. I think that most of the well-established Indian national newspapers do a very good job of news coverage, and I think if you have followed the phone hacking stories that must have, well, I know have been covered here as well as in the UK, there is no doubt that some of the practices that have caught on in Britain, and I suspect in other European and international countries, I think the Indian media have a lot to be extremely proud of. Of course they're not perfect, no media are perfect, but I've seen them come a long way in a comparatively short time.
Then what is the suggestion that you are giving to Indian youth? Because you are one of the serial entrepreneurs, you have built institutions.
Well, you're very kind. I think Indians have a strong streak of entrepreneurialism in them, and it would be presumptuous of me to suggest that I can teach the most entrepreneurial nation in the world about how to be good entrepreneurs. I think what I would say is identifying the opportunity and seizing it, looking at the positive. I mean, the most unfair thing that at the time ever happened to me, which caused me to lose a job, a marketing and public relations job in an airline, turned out to be an opportunity to create a business which, if you told me, it would end up being listed on the London Stock Exchange. And at the time we floated, we were the only public relations company with a stock exchange listing anywhere in the world. I would have been amazed. So I think my message to young Indian entrepreneurs would be identify the opportunity. Opportunities are everywhere. Have the courage to grasp it and look for the positives in setbacks.
What are your suggestions for the Indians who are working abroad?
Indians who are working abroad, well, I think I would say two things. One is that, and I think they're increasingly learning this, to be in fact assimilated into the country as a whole. There was a tendency, I think, in the past for Indians working abroad to basically gather in small groups and stick together. Now we've seen Indians, my good friend Gulam Noon, who has progressed from an MBE to a knighthood to a position in the House of Lords, is, I think, a very good example of an Indian entrepreneur who has become absorbed into the environment and become in fact a part of it. And I know many other successful Indian entrepreneurs who've done exactly that.
Thank you very much for joining Pod Universal Shows.
You're most kind. Thank you for inviting me.